Satanism is a topic highly misunderstood these days. People think that these people are just a bunch of retards who build artificial altars and then they just operate by themselves in their own bedrooms, and sometimes mistakes happen, and we get some incidents, some scattered incidents that are not relevant. Okay, well, I'm going to say that Satanism is very much an organized phenomenon. Okay, Satanism is an organized phenomenon, and it has been for a while. I therefore think it is our duty to tell its story, the satanic story, and demystify the topic exhaustively. This is the satanic story. So let me just start with the beginning. So, okay, when we hear terminology like Prince of Light, Sons of Justice, Way of Light, Sons of Truth, Angel of Darkness, Enlightenment of Mind, well, that sort of terminology is non-standard terminology. Okay, so it may appeal to the Christian within us. Okay, it may appeal to the archetype, if you want, that is Christian. It may appeal to an archetype within us that is an embodiment of Christian symbolism. Yet this type of terminology is extremely satanic. Okay, so when I say Prince of Lights, where that is Satan himself. When I say when they say King of Lights, well, that is God. Okay, and the ideology says the ideology has it that the Prince of Lights is supposed to dethrone the King of Lights, and they will do this with the aid of the Sons of Justice, okay, who follow the way of light, and also known as the Sons of Truth. Okay, and well, when I say light and darkness, well, that is the opposition between knowledge and ignorance. Okay, and well, we have to remember that the tree in paradise, in the Garden of Eden, was called the tree of knowledge, the knowledge of good and evil, and it was Satan that tempted Adam and Eve to eat from the tree of knowledge. And well, these sort of things happen again and again. Okay, and we keep on falling again and again. So don't think that, okay, we're here on earth, we are not in heaven, and we are not going to fall because simply that there's nowhere to that there exists nowhere to fall. Well, that is an error. Okay, there exists, even here on earth, there exists a very, very long cliff, a very, very long abyss in which one could fall. And that abyss is very, very deep. Okay, spiritually. And when I say stuff like enlightenment of mind, well, that presupposes a process of initiation. Okay, so do not think that enlightenment comes for free. Okay, do not think that enlightenment comes for free. Okay, it comes at a cost, and that is the Faustic Pact. Okay, the Faustic Pact. You are to give your soul to Satan for enlightenment, and that is the satanic war, and that is the satanic cause. And The goal of that war is to, in fact, throw God away from His throne in heaven. And well, I'm not the first one who said this. I mean, Baudelaire has a famous verse that says, okay, sons of Cain, just throw God on earth, you know. So this sort of stuff has been well known since Baudelaire's time, and it is not exactly a secret. This sort of stuff is in fact recorded. Okay, but how? Okay, this sort of question does arise. How do we distinguish between true Christianism and satanic Christianism? Okay, well, that sort of stuff is somewhat simple. Okay, it's not entirely simple, but it is somewhat simple. The purpose of true Christianism is the dispensation of the sacraments, in my humble opinion. Okay, whereas satanic Christianism approaches a recruit initially by attractive rituals that have to do with sex. Okay, and then we find out more. We found out that, for example, one may be able to live forever. And then we find out even more, for example, that our mission is to murder God, believe it or not. And when we find that out, it is by far too late, because we have been initiated. Okay, so why do I say it is too late? Well, I say it is too late when we find that out, because we've lost willpower. Okay, we have lost the freedom of our will. Okay, we've lost agency, as some people wish to call it. Okay, so by the time we get to that level, and that so-called spiritual satanic level, to know that our mission is to murder God, then it is already too late. We are unable to make choices anymore. Very often the fruits of the Spirit are exemplified, yet one exercises these virtues in exchange for a reward from men, not from God. From this perspective, the title of God is a full-time job, and some initiates may remain at the level of being paid through sexual favors. They may have no interest whatsoever in the spiritual subtleties of Satanism. In the same way, a perfect lookalike that plays the role of a murdered person will regard himself or herself simply as an actor on a stage. They simply don't care about the implications. They don't care about anything else. They're just an actor on a stage. There exists in Satanism the idea of an opposition of contraries, an idea that humans in general are either monstruously bad or saintly good. For example, if I say to someone, you should be meek, patient, gentle, benevolent, intelligent, and so on, there exist two distinct readings, quite distinct readings, if I view this text through the eye of truth or the eye of deceit, so to speak. These two readings are entirely different and quite opposite to each other. Therefore, people are trained from very young to be in a certain way, evil or good, favorite or black sheep, so to speak. We suspect this type of approach, this type of theology is Calvinistic in nature. Sorry about that. Okay, another point. Sometimes deep irony or sarcasm is used, as when somebody says, "In God we trust." This type of phrasing does make one think that God, in the standard understanding of the term God, not in the other understanding of God not in the other understanding of God as God Satan, This phrasing would imply that God is something like a business partner. In God we trust, a business partner. Well, this type of phrasing is highly derogatory. My message to people contemplating this way, be it the way of sexual remuneration or the other way, the way of plain, dark, satanic worship, would be to know that the sex or pleasure or spirit or beatification, whatever the remuneration is, does not come for free. It is given in exchange for services that can in fact be viewed as crimes against the real God or against society or against the true laws of the realm that one inhabits. That is all I'm going to say to warn you against this path, as I do hope it is obvious that this path is a terrible, terrible mistake. Satanic language is very often very similar to true religious language, yet this similarity is only apparent. This is also in itself a sacrilegious sarcasm. This is more than blasphemy, it is meta-blasphemy. To be continued. Satanism is a topic highly misunderstood these days. People think that these people are just a bunch of retards who build artificial altars and then they just operate by themselves in their own bedrooms, and sometimes mistakes happen and we get some incidents, some scattered incidents that are not relevant. Okay, well, I'm going to say that Satanism is very much an organized phenomenon. Satanism is an organized phenomenon, and it has been for a while. I therefore think it is our duty to tell its story, the satanic story, and demystify the topic exhaustively. This is the satanic story. It is said in 2nd Nephi chapter 2 verse 25, Adam fell that men might be, and men are, that they might have joy. And then again on Moroni chapter 9 verse 6, it is said, for we have a labor to perform whilst in this tabernacle of clay. In modern Judaism, Pesach, Shuvo, and Sukkot are celebrated for the number of days prescribed by Scripture, namely 7 days, 1 day, and 8 days respectively. Pesach commemorates the Exodus from Egypt. It is the festival of Passover. There does exist a counterpart in Christianism, and that is our Easter. In Exodus chapter 12 verse 23, clear indications are given to the children of Israel such that they don't get slaughtered when the day of the Lord comes, when the day of punishment for the Egyptians does come. And that is a very important part of Pesach and the festival of the Passover. Shuvo commemorates the revelation of the Torah at Mount Sinai. This is commonly described in the Christian Bible in Exodus verse 31 chapter 31, verse 18, and chapter 34, verse 2. The common theological reference on this one is the Ten Commandments. Refer to those if it is required. Sukkot is also known as the Feast of Tabernacles. It commemorates the 40 years spent in the desert on their way to the Promised Land. The 40 years spent by the children of Israel in the desert. References are found in Leviticus 23, verses 34 to 44. And as far as we are aware, this topic is dense and complicated, beyond the scope of the present exposition in any case. Yet in some of the numerous variations of satanic worship, we are told there exist 7 festivals required to observe. These are Passover, unleavened bread, first fruits, Pentecost, trumpets, Day of Atonement, and Tabernacles. For example, it is stated clearly in various references that Christ himself was the Passover lamb of satanic worship. What this means precisely remains to be established, yet it is a clear indication that many priests and Pharisees of the day did engage in satanic worship. That much should be seen as correct factual knowledge, in my opinion. Yet there does exist a weaker implication also stemming from this. The implication is that, somewhat somewhere, Satan himself has spoken to the satanic priest, deacon, or official. For in order to state a thing like, quote, Christ was our Passover lamb, end quote, then by implication, weak implication, things were in fact transmitted to us from Christic times to the present through continuous, uninterrupted satanic worship of various kinds. Thus we are able to see how Satanism bears some deep relevance into the development of our human civilization to date. To be continued. Satanism is a topic highly misunderstood these days. People think that these people are just a bunch of retards who build artificial altars and then they just operate by themselves in their own bedrooms, and sometimes mistakes happen and we get some incidents, some scattered incidents that are not relevant. Okay, well, I'm going to say that Satanism is very much an organized phenomenon. Satanism is an organized phenomenon, and it has been for a while. I therefore think it is our duty to tell its story, the satanic story, and demystify the topic exhaustively. This is the satanic story.
About the despondency that fights us as we begin to properly pray. And today we'll talk about the waterfall of bad thoughts and this dreadful feeling of uncleanness, unworthiness, which follows once we've managed to deal with despondency. If you read the Holy Fathers, particularly if you read from the Desert Fathers, who are our best teachers on prayer, you will see that they come again and again back to this reality that the minute we approach God, every step we take towards God, we are going to be fought. They talk about not picking up a fight with the devil if you want to have a quiet life. In other words, if you are a soldier of prayer, or if you want to become a soldier of Christian prayer, don't expect grace immediately. Grace may be given just to give us a bit of courage at the very beginning. But once we enter the desert of prayer, once we enter the desert of ourselves and we begin to see ourselves for the deserts that we are, expect nothing but temptation for a very, very long time. And I'm here trying to help you not to give up. In fact, I'm here trying to tell you that this is a good sign. This means that you've picked up a good fight, which is worth fighting, because at the end of it all, grace awaits you. Be blessed, dear ones. Be blessed.
Satanism is a topic highly misunderstood these days. People think that these people are just a bunch of retards who build artificial altars and then they just operate by themselves in their own bedrooms, and sometimes mistakes happen, and we get some incidents, some scattered incidents that are not relevant. Okay, well, I'm going to say that Satanism is very much an organized phenomenon. Satanism is an organized phenomenon, and it has been for a while. I therefore think it is our duty to tell its story, the satanic story, and demystify the topic exhaustively. This is the satanic story. According to the Jewish standard calendar, we find ourselves in the year 5782. That is Anno Mundi, the Anno Mundi. Hence there exist 5782 springs, summers, autumns or winters since the creation of the world. Yet, according to another numbering, a satanic numbering, we find ourselves in the year 5946. So there do exist 5782 years since the creation. That positions the satanic numbering 164 years ahead the precise date of the Anno Mundi. This satanic date is incorrect, and we can see it is incorrect. If there exists 5782 springs since the precise moment in time before which there were no springs at all, then we are in fact unable to start counting springs or moons or days or quarters or anything we wish to count. We are unable to count the occurrences of these physical phenomena from an earlier date. Therefore, the satanic commemoration, that of 164 years before the Genesis, does mark an event that could be, to the best of our knowledge, the creation of angels and angelic beings, including Lucifer himself. Yet this guess is only a timid speculation. We are unable to verify precisely what the satanic commemoration of the year 5946 does in fact represent. Let us jump further in time, roughly around 3,700 years or so, towards the beginning of the New Testament. It is then when the Battle of Judea took place, and further research is required in order to establish whom precisely the belligerent parties were in this battle. It is documented in the New Testament that the army led by Christ himself entered Jerusalem, and after a certain time period, Christ was crucified on Golgotha due to satanic political discussions that did take place between some of the Pharisees and the Roman governor of Judea. It is clear that Christ, already possessing the spiritual gift of transfiguration, could not be seen by his enemy. Hence, the Pharisees had to commission one of his disciples to indicate their true whereabouts by a kiss. A short fight took place, Christ was seized, he faced a trial and then execution by torture and crucifixion. He raised again from the dead the third day. He spent his last days on earth with his followers, his disciples. He passed the Holy Spirit to them, and then he ascended to heaven without dying. It is just one of many words of spiritual warfare recorded in our human history to date. To be continued. Satanism is a topic highly misunderstood these days. People think that these people are just a bunch of retards who build artificial altars and then they just operate by themselves in their own bedrooms, and sometimes mistakes happen, and we get some incidents, some scattered incidents that are not relevant. Okay, well, I'm going to say that Satanism is very much an organized phenomenon. Satanism is an organized phenomenon, and it has been for a while. I therefore think it is our duty to tell its story, the satanic story, and demystify the topic exhaustively. This is the satanic story. Mircea Eliade, A History of Religious Ideas, Volume 1, From the Stone Age to the Eleusinian Mysteries. The University of Chicago Press. Translated from the French language by Willard R. Trask. The University of Chicago Press, copyright 1978 by the University of Chicago. All rights reserved. Published 1978. Printed in the United States of America. Chapter 13. Zarathustra and the Iranian Religion. Section 107. The Problem of the Magi. The Scythians. As it spread westward, Zoroastrianism encountered other types of religion and underwent their influences. Similarly, the Mazdaism of the Achaemenids did not remain unchanged. Xerxes, son of Darius, forbade the cult of the Devas throughout his kingdom, which brings him still closer to the religion of Zarathustra. But later, and precisely from the time of the inscriptions of Artaxerxes II, Mithra and Anahita appear besides Ahura Mazda. Now, as we shall see, a similar syncretism manifests itself in the late Avesta, where the same gods' names are cited beside Ahura Mazda and the Amesha Spentas. No less the subject of controversy is the problem of the Magi and their relations with Zoroastrianism. They have been regarded, for example, as an aboriginal tribe of sorcerers and necromancers, responsible for the degradation of Zoroastrianism, or, on the contrary, as the true disciples of Zarathustra and his missionaries in Western Iran. During the period of the Median Empire, the 7th century, they seem to have been a hereditary caste of Median priests comparable to the Levites and the Brahmans. Under the Achaemenids, they are the preeminent representatives of the sacerdotal class. According to the information transmitted by Herodotus, they interpreted dreams, prophesied in connection with sacrifices of white horses, and during the sacrifices chanted a genealogy of the gods, which indicates that they were the guardians of a tradition of religious poetry. In any case, the Magi had adopted a number of Zoroastrian rites and customs and ended by being regarded as disciples of Zarathustra. Indeed, certain Greek writers considered him a magus. It is still Herodotus to whom we owe the most valuable pieces of information concerning the Iranians of the north, especially the Scythians. Among their deities we find the sky god Papaios, Mithra, Helios, Apollo, Ares, god of war, the earth goddess, and Aphrodite, Urania. Herodotus also reports a national legend concerning the origin of the Scythian tribes and the royal power. The myth is explained by the tripartite ideology of the Indo-Europeans, and it survives in the popular epic of the Ossets of the Caucasus, descendants of the Scythians and the Alans. The Greek historian declares that the Scythians had no temples, altars, or statues. However, they annually sacrificed horses and sheep, as well as 1% of their prisoners of war to Ares. The god was represented by an iron sword raised on an artificial mound. Sacrifices of human beings, a concubine, a number of servants, and of horses accompanied to the burial of kings. Finally, it is important to note the shamanic character of one rite. The Scythians threw hemp seeds on red-hot stones and, adds Herodotus, who had not understood that a religion act was involved, the smoke made them so happy that they howled in joy. In all probability, we here have an ecstatic experience, parallels to which can be found in the Zoroastrian tradition. Nowadays, and for a long time now, I think we're all worshipping the God of Israel, the God of the Jews, Yahweh, right? Um, I think this is pretty much a universal phenomenon. It has been for a while, and it is a universal phenomenon these days too. So I'm glad. I'm very very happy we have established a universal. Okay, we have established a universal. We have reached a conclusion that can be seen as a widespread generality, I guess. The fact that everybody these days is worshipping the God of the Jews. Okay, cool. Now, except, okay, so exception being those other fuckers, the people that don't worship the God of Israel. Okay, that is the exception. And don't I know what you're going to say. You're going to object. There's don't tell me about Chinese people or Indian people or those are a few good billion people that are the exception. Yet um, yet the culture of these people that constitute the exception, namely a few Taoists, a few Buddhists, and a few Hinduists out there. Their culture is 100%, I'd say, benign. Okay, it's not. I mean, there's nowhere in their scriptures that it is said you shall indulge in torturing human beings, or maybe you shall indulge in breaking every single rule that's laid out for us in the book of Leviticus. Or to be quite specific, there's nothing that says you shall indulge in eating the flesh of a human. Okay, so even though these cultures, in Oriental cultures and Asian cultures, they do constitute an important exception to what I just said, their religious beliefs, the nature of their religious beliefs is benign. Okay, and I would in fact advise I would advise people in general to study Oriental and Asian religions, and they will the study of Oriental and Asian religions will in fact help towards a better understanding of the world around us. So for example, Judaism and Christianity, they have a lot to do with ethics as such. Well, if you consider Buddhism is very, very much about metaphysics, and I am willing to say that the rigorous study of Buddhism can be of help for broadening a person's horizons as such. But okay, so these cultures, the cultures of the Oriental cultures and the Asian cultures, they constitute the exception. Now, what I wanted to talk to you about is the other fuckers, the true fuckers in this story. These are the hermetic sorcerers, the guys that teach us teach us the way of evil, the guys that indulge in evil doing themselves, and take and spare no effort whatsoever in creating a discord among the people of the world, creating and initiating other people into evil doing. Okay, so evil doing is pretty much a trade. Okay, and it requires initiation, and it comes with levels of skill, right? So there exist people that are more or less skilled somewhat skilled, very skilled, or extremely good at doing evil. Yet, why am I considering this particular question? The question of evil doing versus the question of bad religion versus acceptable religion. Why am I actually considering this question right now? Well, this is simply because, and I'm speaking entirely from my perspective, from my point of view. I simply cannot understand why it is that some people indulge in harming other human beings. Okay, so I am not talking about harming animals. Okay, I'm not talking about being a vegetarian or being a vegan or that sort of position, which could be seen as extreme to some extent. Yet, as I said before, I said it in writing. It is vegetarianism, veganism, this sort of stuff. If you are able to stick to that diet, then it is a good thing. It is, and you will notice a spiritual development if you do stick to that diet. But leaving this thing aside, why is it so? Why is it that some people indulge in evil doing? Why is it that some people indulge in harmful procedures performed against other human beings? And I'll make it brief. Look, I thought about this really hard lately in the last few days, in the last week or so. And to me, there exists only one possible explanation. This is evil for the sake of doing evil. This is satanic witchcraft for the sake of satanic witchcraft. And that's all there is to it. That's all there is to this. Satanism is a topic highly misunderstood these days. People think that these people are just a bunch of retards who build artificial altars and then they just operate by themselves in their own bedrooms, and sometimes mistakes happen, and we get some incidents, some scattered incidents that are not relevant. Okay, well, I'm going to say that Satanism is very much an organized phenomenon. Satanism is an organized phenomenon, and it has been for a while. I therefore think it is our duty to tell its story, the satanic story, and demystify the topic exhaustively. This is the satanic story. Mircea Eliade, Studies in Religious Symbolism, Images and Symbols. Copyright 1991, Princeton University Press. Chapter 1, Symbolism of the Center. Section, Symbolism of the Center.
Let us now return to the image of the three cosmic regions connected in a center along one axis. It is chiefly in the early Oriental civilization that we meet with this archetypal image. The name of the sanctuaries of Nippur, Larsa, and Sippara was the link between heaven and earth. Babylon had a whole list of names, among others, house of the basis of heaven and earth, and link between heaven and earth. But there was also in Babylon the link between earth and the lower regions, for the town had been built upon a gate of Apsu, Apsu meaning the waters of chaos before the creation. We find the same tradition among the Hebrews. The rock of Jerusalem went deep down into the subterranean waters, Tehom. It is said in the Mishnah that the temple stood just before the Tehom, the Hebrew equivalent for Apsu. And just as in Babylon they had the gate of Apsu, so in Jerusalem the rock of the temple covered the mouth of the Tehom. We encounter similar traditions in the Indo-European world. Among the Romans, for example, the mundus constitutes the meeting point between the lower regions and the terrestrial world. The Italic temple was the zone of intersection between the higher divine world, the terrestrial world, and the subterranean or infernal world. Every Oriental city was standing in effect at the center of the world. Babylon was a gate of the gods, for it was there that the gods came down to earth. The capital of the ideal Chinese sovereign was situated near to the miraculous tree-shaped wood at the intersection of the three cosmic zones, heaven, earth, and hell. Examples could be multiplied without end. These cities, temples, or palaces, regarded as centers of the world, are all only replicas repeating ad libitum the same archaic image, the cosmic mountain, the world tree, or the central pillar which sustains the planes of the cosmos. This symbol of a mountain, a tree, or a column situated at the center of the world is extremely widely distributed. We may recall the Mount Meru of Indian traditions, the Mount of the Lands in the Mesopotamian tradition, Mount Tabor in Palestine, which may signify a navel or omphalos, Mount Gerizim, again in Palestine, which is expressly named the navel of the earth, and Golgotha, which for Christians represents the center of the world, and so on and so forth. Because the territory, the city, the temple, or the royal palace thus stood at the center of the world, that is, on the summit of the cosmic mountain, each was regarded as the highest place in the world, the only one which had not been submerged in the deluge. The land of Israel was not submerged by the deluge, says a rabbinical text, and according to Islamic tradition, the highest elevated place on earth is the Kaaba, because the pole star proves that it lies over against the center of heaven. The names of sacred Babylonian towers and temples show that they were assimilated to the cosmic mountain, that is, to the center of the world. Mount of the house, house of the mountain of all the lands, mount of storms, bond between heaven and earth, and so on and so forth. The Zikkurat was, properly speaking, a cosmic mountain, that is, a symbolic image of the cosmos. Its 7 stages represented the 7 planetary spheres. By ascending them, the priest attained to the summit of the universe. This same symbolism informs the colossal construction of the temple of Barabudur, which is shaped like an artificial mountain. To ascend it is equivalent to an ecstatic journey to the center of the world. Upon reaching the highest terrace, the pilgrim experiences the breakthrough into another state. He transcends profane space and enters into a pure region. Here we are in the presence of a rite of the center. The world was created beginning at Zion, says a text. The same symbolism occurs in ancient India in the Rig Veda, where the universe is conceived as expanding outward from a central point. According to the Syrian book, The Cavern of Treasures, Adam was created at the center of the earth, on the very same spot where, later on, the cross of Jesus was to be erected. The same traditions have been preserved by Judaism. The most widely distributed variant of the symbolism of the center is the cosmic tree, situated in the middle of the universe and upholding the three worlds as upon one axis. It may be said in general that the majority of the sacred and ritual trees that we meet with in the history of religions are only replicas, imperfect copies of this exemplary archetype, the cosmic tree. The assimilation of the ritual tree to the cosmic tree is apparent in Central and North Asian shamanism. The climbing of such a tree by the shaman symbolizes his ascension to heaven. In fact, 7 or 9 notches are cut in the tree, and the shaman, while he is climbing up them, makes the pertinent declaration that he is going up to heaven. He describes to the onlookers all that he sees at each of the celestial levels which he passes through. At the 6th heaven, he worships the moon. At the 7th, the sun. Finally, at the 9th, he prostrates himself before the Supreme Being and offers him the soul of the horse that has been sacrificed. The shamanic tree is only a replica of the tree of the world, which rises in the middle of the universe and at whose summit is the supreme god or the solarized god. The 7 or 9 notches on the shamanic tree symbolize the 7 or 9 branches of the cosmic tree, that is, the 7 or 9 heavens. The shaman feels, moreover, that he is united with this tree of the world through other mystical relationships. In his initiatory dreams, the future shaman is believed to approach the cosmic tree and to receive from the hand of God himself 3 branches of it, which are to serve as frames for his drums. We note the indispensable part that is played by the drum during the shamanic ceremonies. It is above all by the aid of the drums that the shamans attain to the ecstatic state. Here we have a mystical journey to the center and thence into the highest heaven. Thus, either by climbing up the 7 or 9 notches of the ceremonial birch tree, or simply drumming, the shaman sets out on his journey to heaven, but he can only obtain that rupture of the cosmic planes which makes his ascension possible, or enables him to fly ecstatically through the heavens, because he is thought to be already at the very center of the world. For as we have seen, it is only in such a center that communication between earth, heaven, and hell is possible. Again, and I'll stop this passage here. It is only in such a center of the world, that communication between earth, heaven, and hell is possible. I wanted to quote to you from this book. I've quoted a large portion of the section in question because, well, there exists stuff under our roads. There seem to exist stuff under the roads, namely human remains, human skeletons, and so on and so forth. The purpose of these human remains is a communication between hell, heaven, and earth. Okay? And furthermore, believe it or not, Satan himself will dictate whether I'm going to have a car accident. based on depending on whether or not there exist human remains or human skeletons, the remains of a human sacrifice under the road in question. Now let me read to you from the first degree tracing board, the Masonic teaching of the first degree tracing board. I'm not going to read the entire passage to you. I'm just going to read the bits and pieces that have to do with the so-called Jacob's ladder, the ladder that appeared to Jacob in his dream, to the biblical Jacob in his dream. And it starts by saying that the universe is a temple. This reminds us of Baudelaire, of course, of the poem Correspondences by Baudelaire. The poem in question says that begins by saying that the nature is a temple again, with supported by pillars. So yeah, we can see the obvious Masonic influence in Baudelaire. But I'm not going to refer to Baudelaire too much on this talk. So let's read from the Masonic ritual, the first degree tracing board. Roughly on the third page. The universe is the temple of the deity whom we serve. Wisdom, strength, and beauty are about his throne as pillars of his work. For his wisdom is infinite, his strength omnipotent, and beauty shines through the whole of the creation in symmetry and order. Symmetry and order. Two important elements of Masonic teaching. The heavens he has stretched forth as a canopy. The earth he has planted as a footstool. He crowns his temple with stars as with a diadem, and his hands extend all power and glory. The sun and moons are messenger of his divine will, and all his law concord. The three great pillars supporting a Freemason's lodge are emblematic of those divine attributes. And I'm going to skip a little bit. I'm going to read again. The covering of a Freemason's lodge is a celestial canopy of diverse colors, even as the heavens. The way by which we as Freemasons hope to ascend is by the assistance of a ladder in scripture called Jacob's ladder. It is composed of as many staves or rounds as comprise the moral virtues, but the three principal ones are faith, hope, and charity. Faith in the grand architect of the universe, hope in salvation, and to be in charity with all men. So again, faith in TGAOTU, which is the correspondent of Satan, as we have discussed previously. Hope in salvation. Salvation in this context means the fact that the armies of Satan could win the war against God. And charity, again, charity, to be in charity with all men. This means not to have debts, I guess, and to show brotherhood to the wrongdoers that are associated with one in the craft in question. Now, the ladder, Jacob's ladder, reaches to the heavens and rests on the volume of the sacred law, because by the doctrines contained in that book, we are taught to believe in the dispensations of divine providence, which belief strengthens our faith and enable us to ascend the first step. So I'm going to stop the readings in question here. The point of these readings was as follows. There exists stuff underground. There exists stuff under our roads. Human remains, or the remains of skeleton remains of humans, and so on and so forth. This thing is not random. This thing is done for a purpose. There exists a connection. A connection is established between earth, heaven, and hell. Therefore, Satan himself may act. Satan himself may act on the world. Okay? If there exists sufficient human remains under the road, I may have a car accident. And Satan may decide whether I will have a car accident. If there exist skeletons under my house, I may have trouble sleeping. Well, I don't know which one is of a worse nature. The fact that there's a skeleton under my house and I have trouble sleeping every single night, or the fact that I may lose my life in a car accident. I think that these issues are both very, very bad. And since I mentioned Baudelaire previously, I think it's a good idea to study a few pieces of poetry in this particular context. I'm going to make a comparison between two poetic attitudes. The attitude that Edgar Allan Poe shows towards the Masonic craft, the Masonic witchcraft, and the attitude that Charles Baudelaire shows towards the same type of witchery. Now, of course, this type of comparison should not be carried too much and too deep, because, well, Poe is a romantic and Baudelaire is a symbolist. Poe shows sarcasm and a sort of Poe displays cynicism towards human behavior and human nature. Okay, this is a recurring theme in Edgar Allan Poe, namely human nature, human behavior, human psychology. What does a man do when a man is faced with his possibly death? So if one is faced with his death, possibly torture and death, what is that man going to do in his last moments of being alive? Okay, and this is the story in The Raven. Okay, if we read this poem carefully, there exists a man waiting lonely in his room, okay, possibly preparing his defense. He's being called in a lodge, and suddenly somebody knocks at his door. There's a raven. Okay, so there exists a raven that knocks at his door, possibly an American Indian or some sort of a guard that was guarding his door. They let him know that he's being called in the lodge, and the man in question knows they are going to perish. They know they are going to die. They know they are going to be tortured. And the very, very last question that he poses is if he's going to go to hell, and if he's going to see his Lenore in hell. If he's going to see if he's going to feel love, if he's going to feel warmth in hell, in as he calls it, Gilead. And well, the conclusion of the poem, of this particular poem, The Raven, is nevermore. Okay, so the last stanza in the poem is this one. And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door. And his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming, and the lamplight over streaming throws his shadow on the floor. And my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore. So presumably this is the point in which the person in question dies. Okay, so there's multiple, there's a billion perspectives in this particular poem. There's the perspective of him waiting to be killed. There's the perspective of him going to the torture room, going to the lodge meeting in question, and there's the perspective of him being killed, actually. And the last two lines are, and my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore. Okay, so that is the conclusion. I will go to hell. I deserve it because, well, I haven't been exactly innocent. I haven't been exactly a saint. My soul will be lifted never again. Now, Edgar Allan Poe was a writer of considerable talent. Yet to me, okay, so there's two perspectives. So not two perspectives, but there's two options here. Either he was sympathetic to the Masonic cause, and Poe showed despise towards what being human is, and what behaving as a human being actually is, right? So either Poe was a misanthropist, if you want, or he was showing a very, very deep form of irony and sarcasm towards Masonry itself. Okay, now I tend to believe I've studied Poe for quite a while, and I tend to incline that Poe believed in Masonry. He was quite high in Masonic ranks. He was he had the status of a Grand Lodge secretary, and he was recording in his poetry, in his writing. He was recording faithfully to the Masonic craft, the dealings of his lodge or lodges, and the Grand Lodge that he was a secretary in. And I also believe that Poe was very, very much sympathetic to the Masonic cause, namely the cause of Satanism. This is my belief. This is my opinion. Maybe it is possible that I'm wrong. I mean, he was a very, very talented writer, but unfortunately, I think Poe was a believer in the satanic cause. Now, in the poem Annabel Lee, presumably again a man is supposed to see his ending, and it is being recorded that what he thinks about in the last hours of his death, or in the last moments of his death, is his love, the beautiful Annabel Lee. And presumably Annabel Lee was, in fact, either slaughtered too, or she was being kept a prisoner. All right, again, the man in question, the man that is seeing his last hours of being alive, is a Freemason. He's not innocent. He's showing remorse, and the last thing that he's thinking about is love. Okay, so again, a deep irony, sarcasm, and contempt towards what being human actually means, towards what being human, being alive, having feelings, whether or not these feelings are of a pure nature or of a lustful nature. Well, that's less important. What is important here is that Edgar Allan Poe shows deep contempt towards human nature. This is how I'm tempted to read Edgar Allan Poe. Now let's turn to Baudelaire. I think Baudelaire, I think I can be objective on this one. I like them both. I like Baudelaire, I like Poe, even though Poe scares me. I feel chills up my spine. And Baudelaire makes me sad, okay? So let's jump straight into Baudelaire. Elevation. First stanza: above the lakes, above the vales, the mountains and the woods, the clouds, the seas, beyond the sun, beyond the ether, beyond the confines of the starry spheres. So this, I'm going to stop here. I'm not going to flood you with details. So this is the human condition. This is the man that tries to reach to God, okay? And this is precisely what the satanic witchcraft of Freemasonry tries to do, okay? Where what they are trying to do is to transcend human condition and ascend to heaven without dying. Well, that's just one part of it, without death. As Baudelaire says in another poem, they are trying to throw God from his throne. They are trying to throw him on earth, okay? But let's come back to Elevation. There exists a line in Elevation here that sort of sparked my interest. It sparked my interest in a serious way. Baudelaire is saying, my soul moves with ease, like a strong swimmer in rapture in the wave. Okay. And then furthermore, happy is he who can with his vigorous wing soar up towards those fields luminous and serene. Okay, so basically, after one type of Masonic installation, possibly at the third degree installation as a Master of the Lodge, possibly later, there comes a time when your soul is in the hands of Satan. Okay, your soul is in the hands of Satan. Satan is torturing you. This may happen. This may happen or may not happen. people may indulge in doing evil without being tortured by the devil. Okay, yet to some people this happens, and it happened to Baudelaire. Baudelaire was tricked into the Faustic pact, into willingly giving his soul to Satan. Okay, so what Baudelaire does in his poetry is describe his struggle. Okay, he describes his fights, he describes his struggles, and he uses a type of phenomenology to describe all of the mind tricks, all of the tricks that he makes use of in order to defeat Satan, in order to deal with Satan. This is what Baudelaire is all about. Okay, I'm going to read more from Baudelaire. In his famous correspondences, there exists a line in the third stanza that says, "There are perfumes as cool as the flesh of children." So, somewhere in heaven, I mean, we notice the irony here. So, Baudelaire is not sarcastic, it doesn't show sarcasm towards the human. Baudelaire shows sarcasm towards the institution of Freemasonry. Okay, so over there in heaven, somewhere in heaven, there exists perfumes very much like the flesh of young children. This is very, very deep sarcasm, and Baudelaire is a genius. Okay, so yeah, this line did spark my interest, and I'm going to end by telling you about Baudelaire's poem "The Cat." Okay, I think I've already described Baudelaire's poetry in a film. Okay, and this poem, "The Cat," is included in that film, and I really thought it was obvious. I really thought the message was obvious. I thought this should have been obvious to everybody, yet it seems nobody understood what I wanted to convey, the message that I wanted to convey in that film. So I'm not going to read to you too much from this poem, "The Cat." I'm gonna let you enjoy it yourselves if you wish to do so. Yet Baudelaire says, "In my brain there walks about, as though he were in his own home, a lovely cat, strong, sweet, charming. When he meows, one scarcely hears him." Okay, so this cat is either Satan or quite the opposite. Baudelaire himself focuses his attention on the cat in order to lose the attention that in order to put aside the way the demons are torturing him. So what Baudelaire, this is phenomenology at its best. Baudelaire has a cat. He focuses his attention on the cat. Whatever he does, he looks at the cat. He studies the cat, and the cat itself sort of saves him from the torture that the demons are projecting on him. So this is one of his best tricks. Okay, Baudelaire focuses his attention on the cat in order that the demons do not hurt him. So yeah, a very, very interesting man. He had he had a very, very painful life. I think his mother was his real mother. I think his father, again, he Baudelaire could have been subjected to some hermetic witchcraft. I think his father was doubled, or his father was not his real father, or both. So look at the let us conclude and observe the quite opposite characters of these two writers, namely Edgar Allan Poe and Charles Baudelaire. Quite opposite characters, quite different attitudes in front of Satanism, right? So fronted with Satanism, two distinctive, two quite distinct, sorry, the word is distinct, two quite distinct attitudes in front of Satanism and satanic worship. I really dislike taboos. I dislike taboos in the sense that I don't want to leave any questions unanswered. I don't want to leave any issue unclarified, okay? Of course, some things we don't usually talk about. Some things we avoid talking about, and other things we just for some reason we forget about addressing. Okay. However, the topic that I want to talk to you about right now is not one of those things. So I want to clarify an issue. Okay, I'm going to talk to you about fornication. Okay, and I want to clarify this. I want to. I really need to put things straight. According to my opinion, I want to give you my honest and humble opinion. Okay. And I want to do it now. Okay, so I'm 38. In 2 months I'll be 39. There's one issue. I mean, one cannot give advice or cannot speak about young people issues if okay. So it is seen. I guess it is perceived with. Some form of distrust if I was to be very old and talk about young people issues. Okay, this is not unlike being a man and claiming that one is a feminist, or being straight and giving opinions on issues that have to do with the gay community. Okay, so okay, while I'm still young, I'm not going to waste any second, and I'm going to give you my honest opinion on fornication. Okay, so my honest opinion on this topic is this: fornication is not a huge sin against God, yet it is slippery slope. Okay, so you may wish to challenge what I'm saying right now. You may wish to hold it against me. You may wish to ask further question. You may wish to agree with me, or you may wish to disregard my opinion altogether. Okay. My honest belief is that fornication is not a sin against God, and I'm saying this in the light of the latest discoveries that we have made, the latest discoveries that I have made and we have made and humanity has made about the type of sins that are being carried against God and against the state of being human. Okay, the kind of sins that are being carried in an organized fashion, and by comparison, we can see that fornication is not that bad. Okay, consensual sex between two partners is not that bad. Is not that much. Is not crying out to God that much. Okay, as other types of sins or even criminal behavior is crying out to God. Okay. However, fornication should not be understood as a sport. Okay, so I'm just jumping straight into it. Okay, we should not understand sex as a sport. Okay, and some people being more athletic than others, some people being more endowed than others, some people being more capable than others, some people being more talented than others at this particular activity. Okay, and by the way, it is not an activity altogether. We should not see this as a sport, and well, fornication can be slippery slope. It can lead us into losing our divine nature. Okay, it can lead us into losing our sensibilities. It can lead us into hurting each other's feelings. Okay, people's feelings can be hurt. People can feel emotional pain, and well, it is one aspect, one consideration that makes the topic delicate. Okay, so I think it is important. We should look after each other, we should take care of each other, and we should be considerate of people's feelings, of other human beings' feelings. We should not hurt anybody's feelings, and in whatever we may do, whatever we may end up doing, we should, of course, we should be careful with ourselves. We should preserve our own person, our own faculties, our own health, emotional and physical. Yet we should be considerate towards other people's feelings and other people's health, I guess. And this is all I have to say on this topic from the perspective of a young person. Now let me read to you from The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. I think it is an interesting book. It is a very, very good book, and it is definitely underrated. and I think more people should read this material. I think especially young people can find a lot of good inspiration in this particular document. So it happens that Anne and a young boy named Peter, they are fond of each other, yet the place, the time and place is against them, and this romantic attachment cannot be carried further. So let me read to you the following passage. Father paused before answering. No, I don't think it's wrong, but Anne, when you're living so close together as we do, you have to be careful. He said some other words to that effect, and then he went upstairs. Sunday morning, he called me to him and said, Anne, I've been thinking about what you said. Oh, I knew what was coming. Hearing the annex is not such a good idea. I thought you were just friends. Is Peter in love with you? Of course not, I answered. Well, you know, I understand both of you, but you must be the one to show restraint. Don't go upstairs so often. Don't encourage him more than you can help. In matters like this, it's always the man who takes the active role, and it's up to the woman to set the limits. Outside, where you're free, things are quite different. You see other boys and girls, you can go outdoors, take part in sports, and all kinds of activities. But here, if you're together too much and want to get away, you cannot. You see each other every hour of the day, all the time, in fact. Be careful, Anne, and don't take it too seriously. Let us talk about the concept of a world order. What is a world order? Is there anything wrong with this concept, perhaps? Well, to me, it is definitely wrong. The fact that the world must be organized in some fashion. That somebody must organize it. That there must exist an organized structure around the nations of the world. To me, that's inherently wrong. So, what is a world order? Well, world order happens when a bunch of guys who think they have the authority to organize the world as they see fit, they come together, they meet up, they eat some red caviar, perhaps they go around with ladies and stuff, they meet up, they start chatting, and then they decide, you guys get to do the agricultural stuff. Okay, you get a slice of paradise for yourselves for a while. You get to grow your kids up on goat milk, and everything's fine as long as you supply the world with the necessary products for a while. So do as we say, and it should be fine. Okay. And you guys are dodgy. You guys are funny to us. We think we're going to do some experiments on you guys for a while. Okay. You guys are testing ground. Okay. That's perfectly fine. We know how to control you. We have all of the mechanisms of control in place.
Whereas you guys can sit and relax for a while. You can eat cheese and chocolate and do some yodeling. Okay? That's precisely what the concept, the very concept of world organization is. It's very much satanic and it's very much Masonic. Same thing, really.